Hi, I'm Natalie Page. Thank you for tuning into my channel. Today I am really excited because I will be reviewing and talking about and demoing the Fenty Beauty Skin makeup line. That includes the primer, the foundation, concealer, and powder. I'm really excited to talk about these products. I've been testing them out and trying them out for the past couple weeks, and I really like quite a few products in this line. I think Fenty Beauty has really blown it out of the park. I'm really excited to tell you guys about them. I will be including a demo of how I personally use the products, as well as talking about how I find the products work the best and how I like them. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. I'm new here to YouTube, but I'm so excited to be here, and this has been a huge passion of mine, and I can't wait to start this review. Alright, now let's jump straight in. This is personally how I use the Fenty Beauty line products to do my everyday skin routine, how I use foundation, concealer, powder to achieve my favorite look and what I really like to do. First off, I'm going to unfortunately not be using the Fenty Beauty primer to prep my skin because I just found that it seems to be really drying when I use it mixed with the foundation. I really like the foundation, but I just found that the primer underneath makes my skin too dry. Now I do have naturally very dry skin that I struggle with, and it's winter time right now, and where I live it's very cold, very snowy, the air is very dry, and I found that this primer really just accentuates all of the creases in my skin, and it tends to make it look a little flaky underneath the foundation. I found that when I wear the foundation with other primers, it looks absolutely beautiful, absolutely stunning, lasts all day long. I just found that unfortunately the Fenty Beauty primer itself didn't necessarily work out great for my skin type. Now, I do think that people with more oily to combination skin would really like this primer. It's absolutely beautiful. It goes on absolutely beautiful. It has this really pearlescent kind of a sheen to it when you put it on, and it just makes your skin look so beautiful, which I really liked. I gave this a try for quite a while because I loved the way that it made my skin initially look. I just found that throughout the day it really just kind of sucked what little hydration there is in my skin out. It says on the website that it's supposed to be a shine stopping, pore minimizing primer that is oil free, that is supposed to help keep shine away throughout the day, and it's supposed to help to continue to create a matte look throughout the day. I do find that primers that advertise themselves as mattifying tend to not work so well on my skin because my skin is very dry, but what are you gonna do? That's all right. So instead, I am going to go in with the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base, which is one of my all-time absolute favorite primers, especially in the winter time when it's very dry. Now, I have already prepped my skin with a toner, a hydrating toner, and a moisturizer, and I have washed my hands, so I'm just going to go in and apply a bit of this all over my face. And I just love the way that this primer looks underneath foundation, and especially this Fenty Beauty foundation. I think it just really gives my skin great hydration and great moisture, and it just leaves it looking so pearly and so dewy. Sorry if I'm looking in the viewfinder. This is my first video, so I'm trying to kind of get a hang of it, and also I have a mirror sitting down here, so if I'm not looking directly in the camera, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to definitely work on that more. So next, I'm going to be going on with the Fenty Beauty foundation. Now, I absolutely love this foundation. I cannot rave enough about it. I've been using it every day for the past 3 weeks or so, and I absolutely love it. I initially kind of strayed away from it when it launched because I heard that it was very drying and that it wouldn't be good if you have dry skin, which is me. I shouldn't have judged it because it really is a fabulous, fabulous foundation. And even for people with dry skin, I would say don't be scared to try it out, because though it is a very mattifying foundation, I don't find that it dries my skin out. Right now, I have it in 2 colors. I have shade 160 and 170. Now I am very fair and very pale, and I've been using shade 170 for a couple weeks, and it's been working out, but I have found that it looks a tinge too dark on me. So I just recently went to Sephora and bought the shade 160 that I'm going to be trying out today. Now this foundation does advertise as medium to full coverage, but I found that just with 2 pumps, I can achieve very full coverage look. I found that with this foundation, my favorite application method is with a beauty sponge, and I find that I'm still able to get a lot of coverage with the sponge, even though a sponge does tend to soak up more product. With 2 pumps alone, I think that it still gives great coverage. Now I have tried a brush out with this foundation. With a brush, it just looks a little too streaky, and I really love the look of a foundation that is very pressed into the skin and just very blurred, and it almost looks like your skin but not, if you know what I mean. I just found that with a brush, the streakiness obviously didn't give it so much of a flawless look. I really like to just focus on pressing the foundation into the skin, which I think this foundation does beautifully. I found that it does not sit on top of the skin. It does not look cakey. I think it's just really beautiful. So this shade 160 that I'm using today, I definitely think is a much better shade match. I kept the other shade 170 though, because my mom has been trying out this foundation and concealer and powder with me, and she's really loving it too. And her skin tone is a little bit darker than mine, so I know she'll definitely get use out of the slightly darker shade. There's still a little bit of redness poking through, and I have a nice little friend that came to visit me this week, but I find I like to go a little bit lighter handed on the foundation because the concealer is so full coverage. It's great, so I'd rather build up a little more coverage with the concealer rather than the foundation. I have a couple shades of concealer because I like to mix. I have been using the matching concealer shade 170 when I was using the darker colored these past couple of weeks, and I went ahead and picked up the shade 160 when I picked up the lighter foundation shade. I found that 170 concealer shade has matched my skin perfectly. I think maybe I'll try out the 160 today. This has easily become one of my favorites, if not my absolute favorite concealer right now. I have been a long time fan of the NARS concealer. The Radiant Creamy Concealer by NARS has been absolutely one of my all-time favorites for years and years and years, and I just haven't been able to get away from it. I've tried other concealers out, but it just seems like nothing's been able to compare. Now, I do love a full coverage concealer, which is why I really love this concealer, because it just absolutely eliminates any discoloration under the eyes, any redness that I tend to get around my nose, my chin, any other areas, but it doesn't feel really heavy or sticky, which I found that the Tarte Shape Tape did do, and I know everybody raves about it and everybody loves it, and I really wanted to love it. I did. Like, I gave it a good try, a good effort. I really wanted to, but I just found that it was so sticky. I felt like my sponge and my face were almost sticking together when I was trying to blend it out, and I just found that it didn't blend out very well, and it just looked really heavy on my skin. And this Fenty Beauty Pro Filt'r concealer, it's very full coverage and it's a thicker concealer, but I found that it just blends so beautifully, and on the skin it's so lightweight. And I unfortunately tend to get a lot of creases right under my eyes. You can't tell right now because this concealer is so good. I've just kind of accepted over the past few years that, you know, I just have creasy under eyes. It's just the way it is. Until I started trying this concealer and I realized there's a product out there that helps with that, along with the powder. The powder is also great, absolutely great for that. I really think it's important to take the time to properly blend your foundation and concealer and really press it into the skin. Probably I would be tempted to say my favorite part of the entire skin collection, face collection of Fenty Beauty, I think, are these new powders that came out. I am absolutely in love. Now, I have been hooked and addicted to the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder for a long time. I've been on that bandwagon. I love it. It sets great. It looks beautiful on the skin. So when this Fenty Beauty came out, I wasn't so sure. I wanted to test it out, but I wasn't so sure what I was gonna think about it. But I really wanted to try out the concealer and the powder initially. That's what I went and got. And then I liked them so much, I had to go back and get the foundation, and then ends up I love the foundation, love that too, and I love them together on top of each other. The lavender shade, which I know there's been a lot of talk in the beauty community about, because, I mean, in the container it really does, I don't know if you can see, it really does look lavender, and I was a bit hesitant at first because I thought, oh my gosh, is this gonna make my skin look purple? Am I gonna look lavender? The lavender is supposed to be for fair to light skin tones. So I figured I would go ahead and give it a shot, and I absolutely love it. I wouldn't recommend it to use all over your face. It is so brightening. I love to use it under my eyes, and so does my mom. My mom comes into my room every day and wants to borrow it. She's absolutely hooked on this lavender powder. I truly think under the eyes, it just gives it this beautiful brightening effect, but it doesn't look white. And what I really love about these powders is that they're especially formulated to not give any flashback, which I think is amazing. Not only will the powder look beautiful in person, it'll also photograph beautifully. You won't get that white cast. I like to put the lavender underneath my eyes. I do find that it is a little too brightening all over the face, but I really love the shade Butter to put all over the face, which is the next lightest shade in the collection, which is said to be for fair to medium skin tones. Now, I have heard over some of the reviews that I've seen of this powder that some are saying that they think Butter is a little too dark and that it can be a little yellow, but I do have very fair skin, and I found that I don't have an issue with the color. So I'm gonna go in and just stamp the tip of my beauty blender into the lavender powder. And I'm going to just press it underneath the eye like so. And then I'm going to continue to take my sponge and just really press it in. And then I'm also going to take it and run it over my nose. I typically like to focus my powder underneath my eyes, on my chin and on my forehead. And then I'll just kind of diffuse the excess on my sponge around the rest of my face. So I do like this portion of my face to be highlighted, so I will bring that on my nose. And I just find that it gives this really beautiful cast, this brightening cast on the skin. And then I'll dip into the Butter shade again with the end. I really enjoy putting this powder on with a beauty sponge. personally, I typically put all of my loose setting powders on with a beauty sponge. I usually only use a brush when I'm using a pressed powder. I just like the way it looks better. I feel like I can better press it into my skin and get, again, more of that really blended, really pressed in look, and not so cakey or sitting on top of the skin. So I'm just going to take a little bit. This powder really does go a long way. You don't need a lot of it. So I'm just going to dab a little bit on my chin, and then I'm going to dab a bit on my forehead. Blend that out. And then blend it out on my chin. And then I'll take the excess and blend it onto my cheek. Bring it up. And then I'll put it a little bit under my eyes, kind of blend those two powders together to get a more seamless look. And because I like to take my foundation down my neck, I am going to powder my neck. Now, I personally don't find this powder super drying. I think it's really nice. It's a really nice matte powder, but it doesn't suck all of the moisture out of my skin. I really like a very matte look. It tends to be harder for me because I like a very more of a matte look to my skin, and then I like to warm it up with bronzer and warm it up with highlighter. But that's one of the reasons I really like this Fenty foundation, is because it's naturally a very mattifying foundation, and between the foundation and the powder, it doesn't take all the moisture out of your skin. It mattifies your skin, but it doesn't dehydrate it, if that makes sense. So this is the finished look using the foundation, concealer, and powder. I really like it. I think it gives a beautiful look to the skin. I think it's a beautiful matte, but while still giving life to the skin. I don't personally love to bake under my under eyes just because of how dry my skin is. I just don't prefer it personally. And this lavender powder is very brightening, so I don't necessarily think you need to bake underneath your eyes, because this lavender powder will naturally give you that light effect that baking would. Now, I do like to use butter shade of the powder to bake my contour. I think it's fabulous for baking your contour. It will absolutely give you a great cut, crease, defined contour. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I contour and bake that, so that you can see how I use the powder to do that. So I'm going to be using the Kat Von D Shade and Light contour palette right here to do that. So I'm going to be using the Morphe M437 brush today, and I'm going to dip in to these two shades right here. And then I like to build. My skin is looking a little red in this video. I don't know if you can tell, I'm a little nervous. So my skin is a little more red than it naturally would be. And then just to bronze up the skin a little bit, I'm going to use the Too Faced Milk Chocolate Soleil bronzer and a Morphe R2 brush. And I'm just gonna dip into that a little bit and just right above that contour. Give it a little bit of warmth. Gotta warm up the face. And there. And now we're ready to bake. I'm just going to take my beauty sponge with a little bit of that leftover foundation and concealer and just pat it a little bit to get rid of any excess contour bronzer that may have gotten a little lower than I would like. And then I'm going to dip into the butter shade. I'm just going to use the absolute tip and then carve the contour out just to make it really crisp. Like so. Now again, a little bit goes a long way. You do not need much for this, but it really just glues to your face. The longer you let it sit, the better, and it will absolutely create such a beautifully defined contour. Like so. Now I'm going to let this sit while I do the rest of my makeup, and I will be right back with the finished look. So I've gone ahead and finished the rest of my makeup except for mascara and setting spray, because I wanted to show how my bake is setting and looking now. So I like to go ahead and wipe off my bake before I put my setting spray on, and I'll just use a brush, a fluffy brush. I'm using the M530, and just going ahead and wiping that away, making sure there's no residue or any excess left. And I just love the way it makes my contour look. It sticks just enough, but not too much. So I just wanted to update you on that. I'm going to go ahead and put some setting spray on and some mascara, and then I'll be right back. So just a quick recap on the products that I talked about in today's video and that I used in today's video from the Fenty Beauty line. Personally, the primer, not my favorite, but I do think it would be really beautiful on combination to oily skin. I absolutely love the foundation. Very pleasantly surprised by how much I like it. Definitely think those of you out there with dry skin, do not be hesitant about this foundation. I think it's beautiful. I think it gives a beautiful mattifying look without stripping the skin of natural moisture. I think it's very medium to full coverage, definitely more towards the full coverage. I think a little bit goes a long way. You will definitely get your money's worth. And concealer, absolutely love concealers. Doesn't crease, doesn't separate on the face. It holds up all day long. I have a really difficult time on my chin and around my nose. My makeup breaks up so bad even when I set it, but with this concealer and foundation, it does not break up at all day long. It's fabulous. The shades are great. The undertones are great. They're so creamy. They're so full coverage. They blend so beautifully. I would highly recommend. Also, powders I think are great. Love the lavender powder, think it's very brightening. Also love the shade Butter. I think it's great that this is more of a sheer powder, but that the line is very inclusive and comes in quite a range of colors, because translucent doesn't apply to every skin tone. I think this and the concealer together, if you have issues with fine lines, creases in your under eyes, I think this is a dynamic duo. I think it is a must-have. I know it's really great on my skin. My mom really loves it. I think it would be great on mature skin as well, because it really does not sit into those fine lines at all. It's just really great, really beautiful, gives a beautiful matte set to the skin, but not too drying. I just think it's great. Well done, Fenty. So that's the end of this video. Thank you all so much. This is my very first video. I really hoped you enjoy. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my video so that you can see more of when I post and so that you're updated. I will put all the links in the description to all of my social media so that you can please follow me. I will also link all the products I used in the description, as well as everything I used on my face that I didn't necessarily show in the video, in case anybody is curious. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to posting more videos. Thank you so much. I'll see you again soon. Again, I'm Natalie Page. Bye. Okay, I think it's good.